Dallas, 1988. In a city that never fully sleeps, paperwork can arrive like a warning, quiet, official-looking, and time to be taken seriously, after dark. Then the first signal, a call routed through the system, Air Force investigators, then the Bureau. Not a confession, a delivery notice, nothing more. On September 15th, an AFOSI agent makes contact in Dallas and hands over a copy of something labeled super secret. The hook is the formality, by design. This is the trick of a good fake. It doesn't demand belief. It demands procedure, forcing the machine to spend time proving what it already suspects, right away. Step 1 is never, do we believe it? Step 1 is log it. Once it's logged, it becomes real in the only way bureaucracy cares about time, labor, and files, on paper. A single fake document is fragile, but copies make it durable. Every reproduction adds weight until the lie feels like it's always been there, all along. Now comes the slow work. Margins, typefaces, formatting small details that reveal whether a secret was protected or merely performed for show. And here's the real payload, not UFO's obligation. The Bureau has to respond, officially, because ignoring it would be its own kind of risk as well. Good fakes don't just copy facts. They copy authority stamps, formatting, tone. It's not a document. It's a costume, carefully tailored. Once it enters custody, it becomes a responsibility. Every signature is a step deeper into the hoax, because now the system has to prove its fiction in writing. Verification doesn't happen in one room. It travels office to office, desk to desk, turning a rumor into a routed task with a tracking number properly attached. And then the conclusion lands simple, anticlimactic, not authentic. But the damage is done. The hoax got what it wanted, your time, up front. Not every fake is meant to convince the public. Some are meant to test the system, how fast it reacts, who it calls, what it prioritizes, under stress. The real weapon is volume. If you can make an agency investigate a fiction, you've already won something: attention, workload, and distraction for weeks. Here's the irony. The moment an office responds, the story gains gravity. FBI looked at it, becomes proof to people who want to believe, on site. When a forgery is good enough to require a formal review, it upgrades itself. The inspection becomes part of the myth, whether it passes or fails, in public. Analysts start with the simplest clues. Paper ages, ink ages. A historic secret shouldn't look like it was born yesterday, at all. Every machine leaves fingerprints, letter spacing, alignment, pressure, tiny ghosts that tell you whether the page came from history or imitation in disguise. Then the human layer, titles, signatures, names. A fake can sound official until the wrong detail lands in the wrong decade, too early. FBI didn't work alone. The assessment looped through Air Force channels until the verdict stabilized. It wasn't a leak. It was a forgery, for sure. It didn't hit just one desk. Copies moved through more than one FBI office, multiplying the workload and multiplying the story at once. Timing matters. Drop it when offices are overloaded, when people are tired, when caution wins and the document gets processed instead of dismissed, every time. The content is almost secondary. The real payload is the rumor itself, portable, repeatable, designed to survive even after the facts collapse, on contact. The most powerful debunk isn't dramatic. It's boring. Measurements, references, contradictions, quiet work that kills a loud lie, stone cold. You don't defeat a fake with opinions. You defeat it with context, real archives, real formats, and the quiet question, does this belong here, right now? Verification creates its own storm calls, memos, requests for confirmation. The hoax turns into a workload, and workload creates pressure to resolve it very fast. Fakes don't fail in the big claims. They fail in the small seams. Spacing, phrasing, a style choice that doesn't match how real secrets are written in practice. No fireworks, no confession, just a file that ends with a plain conclusion, not genuine. The system did its job and paid the price in hours, already paid. Debunking doesn't always shrink a story. Sometimes it feeds it. They investigated it becomes a headline stronger than it was fake, by far. The public sees a verdict. The agency feels the cost, hours, attention, and the quiet displacement of real cases pushed aside, all day. If you can force the system to chase a ghost, you don't need anyone to believe in aliens. You only need them to believe it's urgent, right now. Dallas becomes a junction in the story where an A-Fozzy handoff turns a rumor into paperwork, and paperwork turns a rumor into history for people. The memo is designed like a parasite. Easy to copy, easy to repeat, hard to kill. Even when it's disproved, it keeps moving, still onward. It speaks in a language people recognize. Clearance, committee, recovery. Words that feel like locked doors, so you assume something valuable is behind them, out there. Every investigator learns the same lesson. The more something tries to look official, the more carefully you should question it every time. Truth isn't a feeling. In a federal office, truth is a process slow, documented, and expensive. That's exactly what the hoax exploits, on purpose. The first question isn't, are UFOs real? It's, who wants me to read this right now? Because urgency is the oldest trick, still used. A real leak has a source you can chase. This one has a trail that evaporates just enough detail to look anchored, not enough to verify cleanly, for sure. High strangeness claims are attention magnets. They jump the line not because they're true, but because nobody wants to be the one who ignored classified, in case. The hoax doesn't need you to believe. It needs you to allocate. Your time is the currency, and the memo is built to spend it very efficiently. Even after it's labeled fake, the file remains. Paper has a long afterlife, and every rediscovery restarts the story for a new audience, once more. Legends upgrade through repetition. Each retelling adds certainty, even as the original evidence gets blurrier and more distorted over time. MJ-12 works like a mirror. People don't just read it, they project onto it. Fear, hope, distrust, and the desire for a hidden answer deep inside. The bait is never the aliens. The bait is the format, because official style triggers official behavior, even when the content is nonsense, every time. In this light, every page looks serious. That's the danger when the mood of secrecy does half the work the evidence can't, by itself. The higher it goes, the quieter the room becomes. One wrong call, ignore it, or escalate it, and someone wears the blame, later on. The urgency is fabricated, but the routing is real. Once the memo enters the pipeline, it moves like any other priority, fast and hungry, nearly nonstop. The debunk is meant to end the story. But in a conspiracy culture, even the debunk becomes evidence, because it's official, and it exists, in print. Hoaxes don't attack technology. They attack people fatigue, caution, and the fear of missing something that matters the most. The stamp is placed, like a trigger. One glance, and your brain whispers, handle carefully. That whisper is what the forger is buying from you. In the end, it's not drama that wins. It's the checklist, because procedure doesn't care how exciting a claim sounds, at all. A hoax doesn't need to be true to live. It just needs to be retrievable, pulled from a drawer years later, and treated like a rediscovered secret again later. Every agency reply creates an echo. Even a no becomes a signal, something that can be quoted, repeated, and weaponized right afterward. It looks like one packet, but it causes a detour, pulling attention away from work that actually needs it and toward a problem someone invented, on purpose. Some documents are too loud. They change the room. The memo announces itself before anyone even checks whether it deserves the attention at first. The conclusion is simple, but it's not contagious. It's fake. Doesn't travel like it's secret. That imbalance is the whole game, right today. Think about the handoff again. It's staged like intelligence, just enough ritual to make you treat it like a fire, even if it's smoke, just smoke. If the Bureau ignores it, and it's real disaster. If it treats it seriously, and it's fake wasted resources, the hoax wins either way, no matter. This is a paperwork war. No bullets, just forms, signatures, and hours. The battlefield is attention, and the weapon is plausible-looking paper, all day. The lesson isn't about UFOs. It's about systems. If you can trigger procedure, you can steer energy without ever proving anything. For real. Sometimes the fake is marketed better than the truth. It arrives with drama, while reality arrives with a quiet memo no one repeats ever again. A story changes the moment it gets a file. File numbers don't prove truth, but they create a feeling of legitimacy that facts struggle to match too easily. Skepticism isn't free. It takes time to verify, to document, to close the loop time the hoax forces you to spend, each time. The ending is quiet, fake, but the beginning is loud, secret. That's why these stories keep looping, because beginnings travel farther than endings, by miles. There's always a shadow audience, people waiting for official reaction, not because they trust it, but because they can use it later on. It's a load test. Drop a convincing fake into the pipeline and measure the response, how long it takes, who gets involved, what breaks first, under pressure. Manipulation doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just a nudge, one packet moved to the top, and suddenly the whole office moves with it as well. To believers, fake can sound like cover-up. The verdict gets reinterpreted because ambiguity is the oxygen these stories breathe every day. In Dallas, the rain makes everything shine, especially the places built to look unquestionable. That's where the memo wanted to land, so perfectly. The lie succeeds by looking like work. It produces activity notes, calls, check marks, so it feels productive, even while it drains you so slowly. At some point, the evidence stops being interesting and starts being consistent. And consistency is what exposes imitation, at last. The case ends the way most real cases end. Quietly, a soft click of a drawer, a note in a file, and a story outside that refuses to die, still breathing. Inside the file, not authentic. Outside the file, speculation spreads anyway. Because people don't share conclusions. They share mysteries, much faster. The magic trick is simple. It makes the ordinary feel dull. It hijacks curiosity, and curiosity is easier to trigger than discipline, by far. Different decade, same tactic. Whether it's paper in 1988 or pixels today, flood the system, force a response, and harvest attention so quickly. If you want to understand the hoax, don't stare at the UFO claim. Watch the reaction it forces, because that reaction is the real story, right there. Even when the office contains it, the story finds an escape route. One copy outside the system, and the verdict inside no longer matters to anyone. Systems are built for known problems. A well-crafted fake hits the blind spot where procedure exists, but certainty doesn't. Not yet. This is the pivot point, when a document stops being evidence and becomes lore. Lore doesn't need proof. It only needs believers out there. Dallas doesn't prove a crashed craft. It proves something quieter, that a convincing story can make powerful institutions move, whether it's true or not, either way. Every hoax has a signature little imperfections that don't show up in the headline, but always show up under a careful light, so clearly. At first, it's doubt, then pattern, then proof. The moment certainty arrives, the story loses its power inside the office, at least for now. The trap works because we're human. Secrets feel important, mystery feels urgent, and urgency makes us skip the question, who benefits, most often. The real mystery isn't what crashed, it's who dropped the paper and why. Because the document's destination wasn't belief, it was the system itself entirely. In a federal archive, a folder is supposed to be an ending, but sometimes a folder is the start of a legend because it can always be found again later on. Debunked doesn't mean defeated. The official fake verdict stays in the file while the exciting claim runs free, unbothered by paperwork out there. This is the template. Dress a claim as classified, deliver it through a credible touchpoint, and force the machine to validate it by spending time, every time. So, if you ever see a super secret memo appear from nowhere, don't ask what it claims. Ask what it forces and who gets paid in your attention. Instead, always. In the end, the only thing truly proven is this. The system received it, processed it, and paid the bill in hours you'll never get back. ever again. MJ-12 wasn't a revelation. It was an operation of attention proof that a well-made fake can make real institutions move and make the myth live longer than the truth, for good.